But first, you know, we cannot ever go back to closing down the economy and to locking people in their homes to fight this virus. We just can't do that. We've got to be a lot smarter now. We've suffered enough and we've learned enough. And the way to be much smarter is to always look back at your mistakes and learn from them. Unfortunately for the country, particularly unfortunately for Victoria, that does not seem to be the way the Premier of Victoria does things.
I'm not interested in making reflections on things that can't be altered or changed. That's in the past. Now,
this reluctance to look back and certainly to admit mistakes, at least publicly, and learn from them, it strikes me as pretty typical of Daniel Andrews and his government. Now, this failure was lethal before, and I fear it could be lethal again, particularly when Victoria is finally opening up. It's easing the lockdown, because opening up puts more weight on the very part of the system, exactly that part of the system that failed so catastrophically in Victoria. More than 800 people died as a result. And that part of the system is contact tracing. Quickly finding, testing and quarantining people who might be sick so they don't infect anyone else. Pretty simple, right? But Victoria's has been about the very worst. They first were using pen, paper and fax machines. Can you believe it? And taking ages. Giving the virus a real head start, days head start. The federal government called it the worst system in the country. And today, the New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian, she says she still doesn't trust Victoria's contact tracing either, which is why she will not, even now, open the border to Victoria.
We know that when you're in a lockdown, it's easy to control the virus. The real test is once you ease those restrictions. We need to see Victoria demonstrate that they have the capacity to get on top of any outbreaks, because there will be. Once you ease restrictions, there will 100% be outbreaks. And the real test is, how do you deal with that?
Now, Victoria's Premier, Daniel Andrews, he tried today to shake off that criticism.
With the greatest of respect to Premier Berejiklian, there's nothing easy about lockdown, and there's nothing easy about what Victorians have been through. We are not just meeting all the national benchmarks for testing and contact tracing, we are smashing them.
Why does the Premier keep telling such untruths? I mean, lives are on the line. What he said is false, and yesterday a lot of people who went out to restaurants and clubs and pubs know now that it's false too. Pubs and clubs and all that, they opened yesterday. But these people would have seen for themselves. They should have been asked at each venue to write down their names and phone numbers, using the same pen, by the way, touched by everyone else. How safe is that? To write it all down, pen and paper, to help contact tracers if there was an infection they needed to warn everyone. Now, I've had reports that a lot of places that opened yesterday didn't bother collecting that information. Not yesterday, not today. Reporters in Sky who checked this tell me the same. And I bet a lot of customers would also have been a bit like me. I wouldn't want to give out my number to some strangers on a piece of paper that's left sitting there for others to look at. And there is actually an alternative system, by the way, that's much easier, much safer, more private. It's the QR code system that's used in other states like New South Wales. You download the app on your phone, you scan your code at the venue, and your contact details are passed on automatically to the government, secure and kept for just, well, in New South Wales, 4 weeks. Only the contact tracers can access it, supposedly. So why is Victoria still, months and months and months into this crisis, still not got this system? Now, the answers from the Premier seem ridiculous. It seems, apparently, it's only Victoria that can't manage this system or trust this system or perhaps even use this technology.
I think it's really important that we get this right, and there are a number of different issues here. There's privacy, there's the security of the data that's captured, and then there's also making sure that we have perfect compatibility.
And so, Victoria is once again unsafe. And that is why Victoria still has so many bans on people's movement and where they can work, how far they can go from home. More bans than any other state. And this is why its borders are still closed. No one trusts its contact tracing. This seems to be a state where lessons are not learned or not learned quickly. And it shows.